Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Rethinking Waste. First, I want to thank you all for coming today. It's just so amazing to be here with all of you who are as passionate about sustainability as I am, and who are brave enough to envision Virgin Islands without waste. When we asked group members to share ideas for titles for this initiative, Rethinking Waste really stuck out to me because we're so used to thinking about trash and litter and how we can clean up the solid waste sector. But this doesn't really address the root of the problem. We need to reevaluate our relationship with garbage, and instead thinking of solid waste, we think as materials with embodied energy and value over the entire life cycle. And the term used by EPA for this topic is actually sustainable materials management. And with this term, they've essentially removed the idea of garbage, of trash, of waste, and opened up endless possibilities. At the Caribbean Green Technology Center, we've always focused on community outreach and education. And so last year, in honor of Earth Day, we hosted a collaborative webinar series with the VI unmuted. Anyways, we hosted a collaborative webinar series with the VI Waste Management Authority, the VI Department of Planning and Natural Resources, and EPA Region 2, who are probably on this call with us today. And the last of these webinars, we actually turned the tables. So at first we were, telling people, sharing information about the roles and responsibilities of the agencies, the types of waste we have here in the territory, and some examples of innovative solutions from around islands around the world. And you can view all of these webinars on YouTube. So just if you're interested, that's where they are. And during the last one, we flipped the tables. So we asked the audience, what do you envision for the future of the Virgin Islands, and what steps do we need to take us there? And this was how Rethinking Waste was born. So the USVI community members signed up to join groups, learn about the creative problem-solving process, to clarify, ideate, develop, and implement solutions to the solid waste challenges that we are facing here in the Virgin Islands. So today, we're going to hear ideas and action plans from 5 groups tasked with reducing waste, reusing materials, organic waste and recycling, education, and raising awareness and building community. And while listening to these groups, I'm going to ask all of you to really have an open mind and help these groups to create and foster connections, identify resources, and help the teams to get one step closer to realizing their goals and their plans. So first, we're going to start off with the UVI Creativity Lab. And then we'll hear a short presentation from each of the groups. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. And so now, Debbie, if you're on, then you can start presenting now.
I am on. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to start, for those who are not familiar with the Creativity Lab, just to give you a bit of information about us. We are a group that was instituted to assist in fulfilling the strategic plan for the University of the Virgin Islands, which calls for the infusion of creativity into the life of the university. And all of the team members have received master's certificates in creativity from Buffalo State University's International School of Creative Studies, and we are all also certified as Foresight Creative Problem Solver trainers. The lab has trained over 50 creativity igniters in most of the individual units of the university, and their roles include organizing and facilitating creative problem-solving sessions for their units. We also have participated in and are still available for organizing and facilitating sessions in strategic planning, visioning, retreat facilitation, and creative problem solving for entities, private and public. So our expertise was employed for this effort in the waste management effort sponsored by CGTC. And we provided training for each of the groups that you're going to hear from today in creative problem solving techniques and tools, which they use as they work towards what you're going to see presented today. And this process involves the 4 stages that Ariel just mentioned: clarifying, where we determine the details of the issue at hand, and then ideating, which allows us to list many possible solutions. And then we move to developing, selecting 1 or 2 of those solutions and evaluating them to determine how best to move forward. And the final stage is implementation. So today's presentations from the groups will be a result of the commitment and dedication of these individuals who have come together, sharing their passion and concern for life in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And the Creativity Lab is proud to have been part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And so, yeah, now you've heard from the UVI Creativity Lab, who trained all of the group facilitators, and now we're gonna hear from the groups. So the first group is led by Gwendolyn Kelly, and they were focusing on building community within this topic of sustainable materials management. So Gwendolyn, if you'd like to start presenting.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to start sharing my screen right off the bat. So give me a second here. Okay. All right, so we're the Building Community Work Group, and we've come up with the Coalition Action Plan. But so I am Gwendolyn Kelly, and I'm the facilitator for the Building Community Work Group. And I will start off everything by acknowledging the other team members. Might I modify that to say the other awesome team members? And they are Ariel Benjamin, who works with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Region 2. Kimberly Junkins is staff engineer with the VI Waste Management Authority. Sheena Ritter, an environmental educator with the Waste Management Authority. And again, I'm Gwendolyn Kelly, and can you take a guess? I also work at the Waste Management Authority as the singular support staff for the governing board. I would like to say a heartfelt thanks to everyone on the team who made my job easier as facilitator by showing up every time for the meetings and making great contributions. They were phenomenal. I'm excited, thrilled to share with you the outcomes of the Building Community Creative Problem Solving endeavor. So let's jump right in. So take a look there on the screen. It's a word cloud, a cool little visualization tool that randomly places the words that you input into a formation. I especially like how this one turned out. As you can see, waste in big bold type, representing our Goliath, if you will, or our main challenge. And then you see kind of hanging out by itself underneath it all, rethink, our salient point, and the focus of today's webinar, Rethinking Waste. Okay, so I think everyone here has a fair understanding of our myriad environmental challenges and would agree that it is important to work as a community to come up with sustainable solutions, hence our focus area, building community. Each work group was given a free rein to develop ideas to address our assigned focus areas, adhering to the 4 phases problem solving process. And the phases are, again, clarify, ideate, develop, and implement. Today we're in the implement phase, but I would do a little recap before sharing the action plan that the Building Community Work Group came up with for implementation. So clarify. What issue are we addressing? The group held several work sessions to gain an understanding, and the challenge question that we decided to move forth was, how might we establish a coalition with the right players to address sustainable materials management in the Virgin Islands? And in parentheses there, you see the date of June 2022. We started the process near the end of last year, and we thought that 6 months into the new year would be a viable time frame to have this coalition together. So next phase. This is where ideate. This is where the group came up with several ideas to address our challenge question. And our aha moment, borrowing Oprah Winfrey's catchphrase, or our breakthrough solution was to actively recruit a diverse group of community members or stakeholders to form a branded coalition to address sustainable materials management in the Virgin Islands by formal invitation from a core group or leadership committee. The coalition was our main idea, but we liked a few others, like starting a regular newspaper column or a podcast to educate and engage with stakeholders. Forming a youth committee as a complement to the coalition was another idea. We know that we need the up and coming generations to embrace these challenges as well and come up with perhaps new solutions, young minds and mini brain cells and advancing technology. We thought by having a youth foster the next crop of environmental leaders. And the last idea we had was an annual conference. We noticed that some of the other work groups had the same idea. An annual conference would be a forum to network, expand knowledge, discuss solutions, and present new ideas on how we might go about what? Rethinking waste. Okay, so in the develop phase, we expounded on the best ideas that were just mentioned. Although the building community group would have liked to have developed a plan of action for all the ideas, we could only address one in the allotted time. So we focused primarily on the coalition. You see the evaluation matrix there on the screen for the top ideas. We weighed the ideas against certain criteria, like if they were within budget or serving the intended audience or being community focused, etc. And there you see how it all stacked up. Okay, let's say this. It says the coalition is within budget there. However, perhaps that needs to be revamped. Currently, there are no identified funding sources, but some funds will be needed. And next slide here is what an estimated budget might look like. For this coalition, we thought, for this coalition project, we thought maybe a project management app would be needed. Something to help us monitor the progress, monitor our progress in completing the tasks. We looked at a couple of different ones, and with features like project tracking, historical and real-time reporting, live chat, document storage, Gantt, and timeline views to show essential information at a glance. So you see the annual costs there to the right. A virtual meeting platform would be needed. The pricing there is for 1-year business plan for online web conferencing, which allows up to 300 participants, and company branding. For the logo and website, although there are lots of do-it-yourself options, we would want to have them professionally done, and there we kind of went down the middle, listing the average cost for those services. Also, website maintenance costs are included, and a few marketing items are listed, like business cards and reusable bags. And wouldn't it be nice to have cotton reusable grocery bags and not more plastic ones? So the total cost for this estimated budget here is $36,553. Okay, so let's walk it back a little. What do we mean by this idea of coalition or coalition building? Okay, a coalition is an alliance or partnering of groups in order to achieve a common purpose or to engage in joint activity. Coalition building is the process by which parties, like individuals, organizations, governments, or nations even, come together to form a coalition. And the whole idea behind it all is we're better and stronger when we work together. Okay, so I think this, okay, the plan. Now we're in the implement phase, and we, the building community group, has come up with an action plan for establishing the coalition. And here you see like a snapshot of the timeline, but there's the full action plan you can view later. There will be a link that will be shared in a slide that's coming up. And if you have time, just you can look at it a little bit closer. So first off, sorry, let me go back. We would choose a name for the coalition, and the due date there is February 11, 2022. Identify a project leader and create a mission statement. And as I said, you see the dates there. Next, we would recruit the coalition members, and we would hope to have that done by May, early May, May 2nd, 2022. And then plan our first meeting, and then gather as a formal coalition by May 25th, 2022. And then our work is only beginning because we will start building our brand right away, and we thought it would be nice to have a kickoff event that we all could rally around, like the different organizations in the various communities. So we chose September 17, 2022 for the kickoff event, which is this year's International Coastal Cleanup Day. And then the community outreach campaign would be continuous. Okay, and like I said, if you want to see the whole plan, this is the first iteration of the plan. I'm sure some things are likely to change, but you can access it via that link. Okay, so the slides got a little bit out of order, but I wanted to this aspect of the coalition as well. You know, sometimes it may seem that we're all alone when we have great challenges, and it may be difficult to ask for help, but I like to think there are others of like mind who could aid the coalition endeavor. So in the work group, we conducted a little on who might assist. So there we list possible assisters. There are already several organizations in our various communities doing great work, like the University of the Virgin Islands, the Environmental Association of St. Thomas St. John, Island Green Living Association of St. John, the St. Croix Environmental Association, Clean Sweep Frederiksted, and others. But how might we pool resources, work together, and help one another to do the possible and what might seem at times the impossible? Conversely, on the flip side, possible resistance or resistors are also listed. We know there are many in the community who are leading environmental efforts and may feel unsupported. However, hopefully we can overcome resistance by focusing on the bigger objective. And yes, that may be calling others to task when needed, but I want to believe that we can all survive in the space we're in and support one another. Okay, so I need a little help. Let's ask the audience. Who should have a seat at the table? In other words, who should the coalition members be? So if you would be so kind and submit an answer, the answers will be compiled. This isn't an instant poll, it's an interactive poll. So if you would respond, the responses will be compiled later, and we will take a deeper look at the answers you gave as we go further into the implementation phase. So if you would please comment and give me an answer. I hope this works. This is my first time trying this.
Do you have maybe a link for this poll so that we can take it?
Say that again.
So we're not able to click on your PowerPoint, but if you could put the link for the poll into the chat, then hopefully we can all
Okay, let's see what happens.
Oh, okay.
You know, I don't think I'm not sure. So you guys can't do it on your end?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, so what you can do then, yeah, I will provide the link, and you guys can just email me. My email is provided later in the presentation. Look at them all and we'll go from there. Yeah. Like I said, I never tried it, but I thought it would be cool to try to attempt. Okay.
Also, if ever people can just type it here in the chat on Zoom, and
Oh,
then
that's true.
at the end I can send you the chat.
That's good too. Thank you. Okay. So I like to conclude my presentation here, the group's presentation, with a quote. And it goes like this: with every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. With every problem, there's a solution, just a matter of taking action. And who said that? A cerebral kind of guy, Albert Einstein. And oh, I like quotes. So here's one more from another learned person, Mahatma Gandhi. In other words, do what we can today. Okay, and once again, the team members are Ariel Benjamin, Kimberly Jonkins, Sheena Ritter, and myself. Thank you. Thanks all. Any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to share. If not now, later. My email is provided right there. Thank you for your attention. That's it.
Great job, great job. And for everyone, you can send questions and comments in the chat, but at the end of all the presentations, we're going to have a open time for questions. So so Gwendolyn, if you can stop sharing the screen, then we can move on to our next presenter. Which is going to be Miguel Quinones talking about reusing materials. Miguel, are you on the call?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. We haven't made a lot of progress since our last meeting. I hope that Ariel, you can provide me a little bit more update on the position that we had posted for. Well, we were trying to post from UVI. So I apologize for those who have seen this already, but it's a work in progress. So I was talking to Kimiko earlier that part of the success of our initiatives here in this program is how we measure what we measure, and what we measure is going to be an indicator of our success. So in this case, we were talking about having metrics for, let's say, repaired items. So when we start developing this program, we're going to set metrics that will track what we're trying to achieve. So in this case would be like repaired items and all that. So we can have an idea of what's being kept out of the landfill. So a little bit of the current situation. We rely on like 97% of imported items. We are purchasing things that are not necessarily quality items, so they end up in landfill. Our per capita waste production figures are higher than the rest of the country. We have operational challenges caused by supply chains and the very expensive replacement of parts. Our beautiful Caribbean environment is very harmful on some parts because of the salt, humidity, and the heat. And we don't have access to craft centers, maker community centers, and repairing facilities. As well, the construction debris also ends up at the landfill. So our preliminary study looked at the St. Croix Women's Coalition, the Closet to Closet store. In St. John, we have the Resource Depot from Island Green Living. In St. Thomas, we have Paws to Cage from the Humane Society, the Salvation Army, and the Reuse Emporium, which is a store. And that's not a whole lot. So there's certainly opportunities for growth in that, in the outlets of used materials. So we are working with the Caribbean Green Technology Center to assign, to create a position for an intern. So the intern can look at the landscape, quantify repair opportunities on the 3 islands, and determine local capabilities of repairability of the items and all that. We see that in Europe, for example, there is a push for items to be repairable, like electronics and all that. So that way they don't end up in the landfill. We are looking to create a database of those organizations that may be able to repair and or reuse or recycle. And then we're trying to also characterize the potential for deconstruction materials and reusing those building materials that are deconstructed. So again, the idea here is that we can use our traditional knowledge to repair things, and that can be done in a way that incorporates intergenerational knowledge, research and development, and also building community through collective repair centers. So by doing that, by establishing infrastructure, then we can affect the material flows. And the idea here is that as we import 97% of items, we start reducing that import number and then recirculating more of those items instead of sending them to a landfill. There is 2 approaches that we were looking at: the repair cafes, which is community supported meetings where people get together for fun and repair stuff. And then the D Labs, which was a opportunity or a process created by MIT, where the development of advanced and collaborative approaches and practical solutions to global poverty challenges. So the idea is that using local resources to create solutions that are applicable in other environments with low-income residents. So this is an example of a repair cafe. So people bring their stuff in, and neighbors or community participants help each other repair things in a relaxed environment. And then at the D Labs is like an informal research and development process where people use little tools, little low technology and all that, and then create low tech solutions for daily problems. So how these 2 initiatives can expand further is by connecting a proposed Center for Opportunity and Progress, which was a proposal from the Urban Land Institute in Chalatamale High School, into a state-of-the-art energizer facility that houses workforce and vocational training, incubator, working space, and a fabrication lab or a fab lab. That center at Chalatamale could then connect with UVI's Business and Research Innovation Center. So there is an academic pathway from high school to college, and then further on, as I said, there are research and development opportunities for more specialized development. This here is an example of what a center could look like. This is from our friends at Reuse Consulting. Thank you, Dave Bennett, for this sketch. And this is a multi-use center where we can, multiple flows of materials can circulate and then be processed in a way that they don't end up at the landfill. So we plan to have a meeting, a standalone meeting with material stakeholders to develop a long-term plan. And this would of course include the primary and secondary stakeholders. So waste management, UVI, in this case, Chalatamale High School, EPA, and so forth. And thank you. We have a link there that I can share on the chat for any ideas or collaboration. And I would like to invite Ariel, if you have anything to add on our intern search and opportunity, I would welcome that. Again, thank you for your time, and I apologize for rehashing our old presentation, but it's a work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that really great presentation.
You're on mute, Ariel.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. And in terms of the student, if there are any UVI students here right now, please reach out to me because we do have this position open. Right now, we are like in the process of getting all the paperwork done so that it can be posted on our official UVI like careers website where students can sign up for it. But that should be happening any day now. And so hopefully soon we can have a student who is working on this database for repair in the Virgin Islands. So that's an update there from our side. And so as I said before, we're going to save all the questions for the end, but there were a few comments for you during the presentation in the chat. So if you want to read those, Miguel, or anyone in the reusing materials group, then you can always like keep the conversation going in the chat. And so next we are going to move on to the reduce waste group. And this is led by Desiree Ross. And so Desiree, if you're on the call, you can start setting up your screen. Great. And you can go ahead and present about your group.
Good afternoon, everyone. And once again, my name is Desiree Ross, as Ariel mentioned, and our team is the Reduce Waste team. Our team consists of the following individuals who I consider to be the subject matter experts in their respective fields. I thought I would start this presentation with a quick overview of where we began and where we are today. So the kickoff that was held by Ariel's team, three main, or I should say these particular areas were our interest: litter in the streets, no more single-use plastic items, composting through a workshop, reduce content in landfills, and zero waste practice. We were given resources by the Caribbean Green Technology Center through Ariel, where we had access to the U.S. Virgin Islands 2019 Residential Waste Characterization Report. In this report, the #1 waste category for each island was as followed. In St. Thomas, it's food waste, St. Croix, contaminants, and on St. John, brush and lumber. Through our research, in January 2022, this year, the EPA approved the Virgin Islands Municipal Solid Waste Landfill Permit Program, which will enable the expansion of existing landfills, construction of new landfills, and design and operational flexibilities. So the question we pose to our group is, how might we organize a recycling, reuse, and composting process to reduce waste? This is our current situation in the Virgin Islands. What you're looking at is a photo from the Clean Sweep Frederiksted Community Development Corporation. They are instrumental in placing trash bins throughout the town of Frederiksted for the collection of trash. It's not sorted, but the reason why I thought it was important is because they use artwork to encourage individuals to use a trash can to eliminate trash being scattered throughout the town area. So through our research or our clarifying stage, we did identify that recycling does exist here in the Virgin Islands. You're looking at a photo where we have recycling drop-off points on St. Thomas at the Market Street supermarket, as well as in St. Croix. They also have a drop-off site at the Market supermarket, which is located in Frederiksted town. Letterback Brewing Company here on St. Croix also recycles aluminum cans. So recycling does exist. You're looking at a photo from the Resource Depot, which was mentioned earlier in St. John, where they also take items that could have been placed in a landfill and have it set up in a store for resale and reuse. Some of us may identify this as thrifting. Island Green Living, which is also in St. John, provides a brush chipping pilot program. And I don't know if it's still in existence, but this is one form of composting that's currently being done on the island of St. John. So based on all our research, we decided our goal was to implement a sustainable zero waste industry here in the Virgin Islands. We had a lot of ideas on how we could achieve that, from large scale composting to implementing an integrated solid waste management plan, reducing food waste, and then of course, reducing water bottle use in households with the introduction of water filtration. Through those ideas, we came up with 3 action items or action plans. One is to partner with local government and the private sector to create and develop a comprehensive zero waste plan, install water refill stations throughout the territory, and identify a source of food waste here in the territory. So our action step worksheet is a work in progress because we have so much ideas from our team that we're still kind of deciding how best to proceed. But we did want to bring out today for action plan 1 that we do want to partner with local government and private sector to create and develop a comprehensive zero waste plan. And this is through collaboration with local government agencies such as Waste Management, Department of Public Works, Planning and Natural Resources to create an integrated solid waste management plan. In addition, once that plan is been created and submitted, we would also be interested in legislation to implement the passage of a zero waste program to include that solid waste management plan. Our proposed partners consist of our existing team members as well as others who help contribute to our team project. And so we have all the areas or organizations that has helped us thus far. The cost to implement an integrated solid waste management plan based on the study provided by the market analysis report for the U.S. Virgin Islands issued in March of 2022 we're looking at 8.4 million, that's round off. What's interesting with this green, if you look at the recycling operating costs versus just reduction, there's a drastic difference in cost for operating annually. So the action plan for this particular area is we aggressively have a timeline of 2023 where we would be able to have legislation brought to the floor to have a zero waste plan here in the territory. As I mentioned before, there are other area groups, organizations here on the islands that are doing composting. And well, I should say before that, composting is not new in the Virgin Islands because we've had legislation in the past. So that's why the target date you may consider to be somewhat aggressive, because this is not an area that's not familiar to the local legislators. Coral Bay Community Council and Robert Reels on this call will talk about some of their composting projects that they have in place now. Robert?
Thank you, Desiree. Yeah, I'm Bob Reale. I'm with Environmental Programs Associated with the Bay Community Council, and I'm focused on solid waste management initiatives. We're doing education and training. We're supporting initiatives of other organizations, and we have some of our own. We recently completed a stuff depot, kind of a neighborhood tag sale where we're able to recycle, reuse a lot of. And then pertinent to this presentation, we are in the process this month of planning to reinitiate a backyard composting program. Prior to the hurricanes, program was started. Several workshops and seminars were held in partnership with David Minner at Gift School, and it was kind of going along well, but then the hurricanes came, and let's just say it was deprioritized. So we have received a grant, and part of that grant is to move forward with some more current initiatives, which is to restart the program. And we're planning a start date in probably late February. And we're going to emphasize pragmatic, small scale composting solutions that people can actually do, trying to work with people to lower the barrier of entry to doing their own composting, make it inexpensive and easy to get started, and then give them the continuing support to move forward with it. Because what we found in what we started last time is a lot of people were interested. We didn't get as many people as we would have liked to start to move forward with it. So hopefully we'll be able to turn that around. And we'll also use some larger scale components with it. And in that we may have like Island Green Living. Somebody asked the question, I think their composting program is continuing at least for a while. And we may use some of that to help provide some of the startup composting for our programs. So that about covers my topic. And I'd like to turn it over now to Jason Budson. Jason is the president of the VI Conservation Society, and he's going to be discussing refillable bottled water solutions. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon all, and thank you, Bob. So in this section, I will discuss efforts related to the VI Clean Coast Water Refill Stations today, started by the VI Conservation Society. Other members of our group can chime in other portions of this presentation when needed. Just let you know, Desiree. The VI Clean Coast certification is a local collaborative effort between the VI Conservation Society and Department of Planning and Natural Resources, Coastal Zone Management Division. Next slide, please. The objective is to reduce the amount of single-use plastic in the USVI. Single-use plastics are detrimental to the environment impacting every part of the ocean food chain, as well as pose great risk to the personal health of the VI community. The VI Clean Coast program encourages businesses to take a proactive approach to greening their practices by offering environmental certification and grants to incentivize the implementation of changes leading to the elimination of single-use plastics. The Eco Certification Program is open to any business in the USVI. The only requirement is that the initial certification is the removal of all expanded polyethylene, also known as styrofoam, from the business. From there, a custom program will be developed for each business to create their own eco journey. An example of our first and hopefully many more water refill stations to come occurred in January at the Magens Bay Beach Bar, Cafe and Boutique, as shown. Please stay tuned as VICC rolls out more stations across the territory. Next slide. So please continue to use your refillable water bottles. I know everyone has one of those. I sure hope so. To help folks to make the switch from using single-use plastic water bottles, away from using single-use plastic water bottles. Here is an outline for an additional 5 filling stations with an estimated total cost about $17,500 to the left of your screen. Next slide. And as you can see, these are action plan. We have a short, medium, and long term. Again, this is based on the point as if the funding is available and to be used. But that's our basic initiative and how we'd like to see our timeline towards this project. As I said, it's a wonderful program. And now I would like to turn it over to Elise Earhart. She is the founder of the project Green Flag and also an excellent yacht chef. So Elise, please take it away.
Elise, are you there? Okay, it looks like Elise is on the call, but her audio may not be working.
Yeah, this is Desiree. I can briefly go over the slides. For our action plan 3, it is for a sustainable zero waste industry is to implement a food recovery network. And so our proposal is to begin the process of creating that recovery working group. To do that, 1 second, there you go. Elise did an informal survey questioning how much food waste was generated from residential sources and commercial sources. And her feedback was there was not much to recover from commercial sources, at least not for human consumption. So we then came up with a plan to focus more on a residential food waste reduction plan, as well as a commercial food waste reduction plan. For the residential, it would educate residents via live trainings and cooking shows, publish an index of food rescue organizations, encourage backyard composting, and publish an index for the commercial food waste is to publish an index of food rescue organizations, also to include farmers and gardeners, as well as research and troubleshoot barriers such as policies and logistical concerns. For our action steps, we would have the budget you're seeing here is from that sustainable, or is that, Elise, are you there?
I am.
I will let you continue. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Desiree. Sorry, I switched from my laptop to my phone. All righty. So thank you. If you don't mind, I'm just going to start in the beginning of my notes here. I'm going to talk about 2 plans that a food recovery working group could pursue. So we recommend the creation of a food recovery working group that works to reduce the amount of food that ends up in the St. Thomas and St. Croix landfills. two plans that the food recovery working group could pursue. One is to reduce residential food waste, and one is to reduce commercial food waste. And Desiree, if you could take me to my main slide, please. I think it was maybe your previous one with the green. First off, to reduce residential food waste, there are three crucial elements. The first is to educate residents about practices that reduce food waste. Educational initiatives could include live trainings. For instance, host a series of Saturday Zoom cooking classes in which a different local chef shares tips about food storage and walks us through their favorite recipe that uses scraps and leftovers. Each class could also be shown on local network television. The second element to reducing residential food waste is to create an index of local food rescue organizations. This would inform residents about the wheres, whats, hows, and whys of donating food. The third and final element to reducing residential food waste is to encourage residents to practice backyard composting. This can include composting workshops like those being planned by the Coral Bay Community Council, as Bob was just talking about. And secondly, a food recovery working group could enact a plan to reduce commercial food waste. This would entail also providing an index of food rescue organizations to commercial establishments. The food rescue organizations listed would be not just community kitchens and charities, but also farmers and gardeners who would use commercial food waste to feed animals or to compost. Commercial establishments that may have food waste include groceries, big box stores, wholesalers, schools, restaurants, hotels, cruise ships, and yachts. The Food Recovering Working Group would research and troubleshoot any policies, laws, or logistical concerns that may be barriers. And they should look for similar promising efforts, such as those developed by the Center for Ecotechnology in Massachusetts. But just as importantly, they should consider the unique challenges posed by the USVI's location and an overwhelming reliance on imported food. The working group could also research companies that offer commercial food waste analytics services that address front of the house and back of the house food waste. For instance, the service called Lean Path. So there are distinct challenges to recovering food in the USVI, but we believe that by establishing a food recovering working group, our community could take on these important challenges and we can divert food from our overwhelmed landfills and recover valuable nutrients for people, animals, and compost. Thank you. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to you, Desiree.
And that concludes our presentation, everyone.
Thank you so much to Desiree and your whole team, to Jason, Bob, and Elise, and the other members of the team who weren't presenting today. So now, there's been a lot of conversation in the chat, so hopefully you guys check that out, and then we will have a time for questions at the end. So now we're going to move on to the group who is focused on organic waste and recycling, or mostly organic waste. So Justin Carvin, if you're on the call. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Okay, all right, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our findings, developed over several months of discussion and investigation. We began by reviewing past reports, including the 2009 and 2019 waste characterization studies and the EPA Sustainable Materials Management Report, to get an overview of the scale and the composition of the waste materials in the island. We had many conversations with waste management staff, community stakeholders, and recycling industry experts in order to clarify the challenges surrounding the waste management within the territory. After several meetings to discuss the issues, we identified a number of potential solutions and conducted research on each to determine their viability for implementation and potential impact. We believe there's an opportunity to transform the cradle to grave consumer goods life cycle in the USVI to a strong circular economy by redefining waste, lowering waste management costs while reducing the growth of landfill volumes and related environmental impacts. Proposed goals are to identify and implement solutions that divert materials destined for the landfill and recycle them into useful products that benefit the local economy, lower the financial burden of waste management while prioritizing environmental and economic sustainability. The vast majority of all consumer goods and agricultural products in the Virgin Islands are imported. Due to the remote location and a variety of market factors, conventional recycling solutions are not viable. So after their use, materials are deposited to the landfill. Over the last few years, there have been a number of innovations around small-scale mechanical recycling, specifically focused on the growing volume of single-use plastics. Establishing recycling capacity within the islands could strengthen the economy by creating jobs and offsetting imported goods. Landfills are one of the leading sources of methane production globally, a greenhouse gas with 70 times the warming potential of CO2. Older disposal sites such as Bavonian and Anguilla are not well suited to methane capture or mitigation retrofit, and appropriate measures are not currently in place to address the fugitive emissions. The anaerobic decomposition of organics in the landfills also generates leachate, which can result in water contamination. Additionally, more than 90% of the energy in the islands comes from imported petroleum at nearly 4 times the US average, which are some of the highest prices in the world. This arrangement has placed a financial burden and uncertainty on the local economy, while also contributing to significant greenhouse gas emissions. All of these factors are creating a combined negative environmental, economic, and human health impact on the territory. A recent waste audit funded by the EPA and conducted by CGTC has identified organics as the largest single stream with the highest priority for diversion. There are several solutions to organic waste management that are not only cost-effective and well-proven, they also offer potential to generate sustainable revenue. Therefore, we believe the primary focus of recycling activities should be processing organics through composting and anaerobic digestion. Both options can divert significant volume of problematic material from the landfill, while also generating marketable energy and soil amendment byproducts to offset the costs and environmental impacts. The current consumer model practiced in the territory is a cradle-to-grave system, moving in one direction from import to disposal, requiring constant replenishment and with no attempt at recovering resource value. There are only small efforts at landfill diversion through the recovery of scrap metal and selected plastics, which are segregated and baled for export. These initiatives are largely planned and executed by independent businesses, nonprofits, and community groups. No other materials have a high enough export value to cover the cost of transportation and therefore incur the cost of compacting and burial. The territory needs to develop a sustainable circular material management model to address a variety of waste streams with the goal of reducing disposal costs, lowering environmental impacts, and preventing the loss of valuable resources. Our current assessment is primarily focused on opportunities to address organic waste by converting landscape debris and food waste diverted from businesses and residents to biomethane and soil amendments through composting and anaerobic digestion, also known as AD. Food waste and wastewater solids are well suited for AD, a process which produces cleaner burning biogas as an alternative to imported petroleum for cooking, transportation, and electricity, as well as liquid fertilizer and compost fiber. Composting is a widely adopted approach to addressing a variety of organics while also producing valuable soil regeneration products. Relatively simple and scalable solutions do exist to mechanically recycle certain materials within the territory. Most notably are the crushing of glass, which can be used for construction purposes, and the remolding of thermoplastics. Scrap plastics that are separated by resin and cleaned of contaminants can be remolded into composite lumber which can be used to produce a variety of durable products, including furniture, disposal bins, playground structures, and crude items such as parking lot curbs. Local reprocessing is not viable for some materials, or they have greater value in the broader commodities market. So if segregated, these can be consolidated and exported, though there will likely be some associated costs. Currently, there are a number of groups working hard to facilitate such export recycling efforts, such as Island Green Living, Environmental Association of St. Thomas and St. John, Coral Bay Community Council, and others who you've heard more about today. Here you can see a circular material flow model in which significant portions of the solid waste stream are diverted from their one-way path in the current model and processed in order to return value to the local consumer. Anaerobic digestion can transform food waste and wastewater solids into 3 distinct products: biomethane gas, compost fiber, and digestate, which is an organic liquid fertilizer. The gas could be utilized in a variety of ways, sold for direct use as cooking and transportation fuel, or utilized in generators for the production of electricity. In each case, lowering emissions, energy costs, and providing resiliency in the constantly fluctuating energy market. Compost and digestate are important products for the island's agricultural and landscaping industries, which are currently being served by imports. Mechanical recycling of certain plastic resins has been implemented on a variety of scales around the world and could be a viable approach to converting this growing waste stream into a material asset. Here you can see some examples of the types of materials disposed by different market sectors and how they fit into this circular economy model. They each produce distinct waste streams that can be processed into products to provide for their own operational needs. Plastic packaging can be turned into composite lumber, which can be used to produce furniture or molded into a variety of other durable goods. Agricultural and landscape debris can be returned to support natural growth cycles and soil health. Restaurants and resorts can benefit from local organic produce sources and can utilize cheaper renewable cooking gas and electricity. The effort will help the territory reduce materials flowing directly into the landfills, meet renewable energy mandates set by the legislature in 2009, stabilize energy and material costs for businesses, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and water contamination, and lessen the burden on the Waste Management Authority. Establishing new approaches to extract value from waste materials will require upfront capital investments and changes to current management practices. However, moving away from waste mitigation and disposal towards a value extraction model creates a path to reducing overall operational costs while creating significant benefits to the local economy. Biogas bottled for cooking and transportation can be used by local consumers or in government vehicles. Cleaner burning fuel could also be used for lower cost electricity generation, offsetting the power currently generated from fossil sources. Compost, liquid fertilizer, mulch can all be used for soil remediation products and sold for the local agricultural use. Here you can see an overview of the anaerobic digestion process. Organic waste streams are ground into a slurry that's pumped into a digestion tank, much like a giant stomach. Bacteria break down the material in a fermentation process, producing biogas, nutrient-rich liquid fertilizer that's easily digested by plants, and decomposed solids that can be combined or used in place of conventional compost. Gas is purified, isolating the primary methane gas from contaminants, and then stored for distribution or use. Anaerobic digestion is scalable technology, which can be implemented in a large central facility capable of producing energy products at a utility scale, all the way down to residential units. The first option that would make sense in the territory would be utility scale systems on St. Croix and St. Thomas. If the facility was built near the Bavoni landfill site, it could be used to fuel the defunct biogas generator originally installed to run on landfill gas. Much like AD, composting can be implemented on a variety of scales. Commercial scale facilities generally operate at a higher temperature, resulting in more rapid decomposition and are able to handle a wider range of materials. Currently, all of the compost available for purchase on the island is imported, so there's a good market opportunity to financially sustain the operation. Implementing a campaign to promote residential composting could reduce waste volumes entering the management system and reduce the burden of waste management while empowering residents to address their own organics. This approach would not only address a small portion of material, but it offers the opportunity to engage with the community and partner with local organizations who are already involved in the promotion of these practices. Mechanical recycling of thermoplastics starts with separation of various common resins, each with their own unique properties and temperatures, melting temperatures. Once separated, the material is shredded into smaller pieces, cleaned, then it can be melted and molded. A common approach is the manufacturing of raw materials such as sheets or plastic lumber, which can then be used in place of wood to make finished products. A great example can be seen right next door in the BVI, where Green VI has partnered with VI Plastics, a private startup business, who's producing scrap polyethylene into plastic lumber. This lumber is then used to manufacture outdoor furniture for hotels, restaurants, and resorts, as well as recycling bins for the territory. Not only is this effort keeping material out of the landfill and incinerator, but producing these products on the islands helps to reduce imports and strengthens the local economy. Systematic change presents a variety of challenges ranging from public education, technical training of stakeholders, and capital investments, not to mention the political will required to implement these efforts. Though the Waste Management Authority must play a central role in facilitating this evolution, it will require support and engagement of legislators, businesses, and residents to make these changes and sustain them. Waste management should not be expected to implement all of these secondary processes, but a focused effort on streamlining convenience centers and public education around source separation of waste materials would provide the opportunity for local recycling enterprises to develop. Similar models are practiced around the world and even next door in the BVI. Supporting and partnering with entities such as recycling startups and environmentally oriented organizations could take the burden off of waste management through material diversion while simultaneously strengthening the local economy. So thank you for your time. I hope you're able to find some value in these suggestions. I also wanted to direct your attention to Kelly McKinney, who's part of the group, who wanted to give a little bit of information about the plastic recycling program that Island Green Living is getting started now.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, I was just composing a message on the chat. Island Green has officially launched its ocean-bound plastics recycling program. So if you're over here on St. John, you can drop your plastic 1, 2s, and 5s to our facility. We'll be expanding to have collection points around the island next month. And we are currently doing some fundraising for this program. So if you're connected with us on Facebook, please check out the post, share the fundraiser. We have a matching donations up to $100,000 received before the 16th of this month. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Justin and the whole group, and to Kelly for telling us about that plastics recycling program. And so now we have one more group, and then we're going to go into questions. And so the last group is talking about education and public awareness. And I think Sheena will be presenting. Or can, okay, great. No, that's not Sheena.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Ariel. Good afternoon. I'm gonna. Am I sharing?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Education and Public Awareness or Outreach Group. Our team consists of the following. We have myself, Kim Junkins, Ms. Valerie Peters, Desiree Ross, Austin Callwood, and Hector De La Cruz. Okay, our group got together and through our analyzing process came up with our breakthrough question. How can we create the recognizable sustainability brand for existing new programs and partnerships to expand the awareness of sustainability and waste diversion? We chose 3 different projects. I know most people are focused on one, but they were sort of connected and involved our everyday roles. Okay, so we came up with wasteless tips. We were able to actually launch this program, not just provide a plan. We launched this program on December 13th through the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority social media page. Wasteless tips are basically our weekly reminders of ways that VI residents can increase waste diversion efforts and encourage sustainability. Each post entice a community interaction. Basically, we probably end with a question or a statement or ask someone to identify their business within the comments. Here's a look at this week's post. It was a post on conserving energy. Just to share. Here's a look at, this would be our next week's post, a water conservation tip. Once, so far when we post, I've been taking the links and sharing it within our education awareness group and asking everyone just to repost it or share or interact on the actual post. Also to share some of the interaction that we saw in the post. It's still fairly new and people are a little hesitant to post, but I'm trying my best to respond to questions under the post. We were also showing you some of our reach. This post in particular reached 1,400 people, meaning it showed up on their news feed. 60 people liked it or comment or had some form of interaction. A few more with the reach, people that actually saw the post. I heard some of these, I'm going to say thrift stores mentioned in a previous presentation. Our second focus was preserving Paradise Schools to Eco School Link. Under my current role at Waste Management, the environmental educator, I do presentation for schools and different groups. School-age children, teaching them a little bit on waste diversion, sorting, basically everything. So we decided, well, Valerie invited us to Eco Schools. Once I'm finished with a series of presentation with students, I then turn them over to Valerie so they can have more hands-on training. Eco School program, go into the school and do more physical in-person learning experiences with the students. We haven't been able to do this as yet, but it'll come. This is just an example of one of the presentations I show to the class. So I will share this with Valerie and she can determine what projects she'll be able to do with the students. This was on composting. Kimberly Jenkins will do the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Sheena. Can you hear me?
Yes, a little low, but yes.
Okay, I'll speak up. So our third idea was to create this eco hub, this website where everyone's efforts from all the presentations previously, as well as the existing environmental groups in the Virgin Islands, can be centralized, that we can build a brand, build recognition for environmental material management, smart, sustainable lifestyle changes and education opportunities. Next slide, please. So here's the screenshot. We initially, as a work group, started to build a free website using Wix. And this is just a screenshot for you to see, we'd like it to be visually appealing. And we can go to the next slide. So on this web page, we've come up with several ideas, which we'll list out on the next slide. But this slide will show you, we can have an events calendar. We can have links to projects like the water refill station, where we can highlight what you guys all here are doing already, as well as eco schools and other ways to get involved, and create even like a Q&A comment, reach the web page master section where we can, provide feedback and keep this updated, this website really up to date. Next slide. And here's a list of those ideas that we've got for this website. There's a great opportunity to highlight the sustainable materials management and explain what that is to people. The EPA has an amazing SMM website, and we grabbed their infographic here, and practice uploading those YouTube videos that Ariel mentioned in the beginning, where we've got these webinars, just like this presentation from today could be highlighted on this website. We were thinking of even including those waste less tips that Sheena explained to you earlier, just creating a big gallery of all of the work that people are doing, so that we can highlight what to pay attention to and any changes, right? So say we implement a plastic recycling in the Virgin Islands, this could be an informational website that we lead people to say, hey, when and where do I bring my recyclables, as well as waste management.
Are you ready?
It looks like Kimber, the internet may not be working.
Okay.
I think you could maybe
I
take
can't
over
see. I can't see
for
the
her.
other people, so I wasn't sure. Sure.
Is that better? Am I back?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And we'd have a contact section for that webmaster, like I said, where we would get back to people if they have questions or inputs to add to this website. And then we'd have a section where we'd say, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? A photo gallery of incredible pictures of the Virgin Islands, showing why we do what we do. Next slide. So we've got some needs for this webpage. We need to have a webpage master. We're looking into funding opportunities outside of the UVI here, but also through the EPA, because we've got a waste diversion grant coming down to the islands through DPNR. So one of our group members, Austin Callwood, was going to see if we could include possibly the internship funding through that grant, as well as maybe we could do a UVI work study intern opportunity. And then we will need input for the content. So we've got content ideas already to give that webmaster direction, but of course, we've got all these groups mentioned today, all these ideas that we need to stay up to date and get the progress posted on this Eco Hub, so the public is informed and each of us can look at and say, oh, what's new? Next slide. So we did come up with a job description for this intern so that it would be ready to post once we do have the funding source figured out. We figured we'd have 10 hours a week. We, listed out the general job description here. You can just peruse over quickly. Qualifications would be like, an existing student status, some experience or studying environmental science, education, or IT. would be applicable. Definitely want them to be creative, innovative, professional. And we just need to decide who would manage the intern, if it would be through DPNR or Waste Management Authority. Like I said before, we need to make sure who would fund the internship, and then when we would, implement the application process, and then the start date. Next slide. And our group came up with a budget. So we have a low, medium, and high ask. So a low budget would just be like a web page consultant for a couple hours, really helping to build the initial website, and then we would manage it through volunteers. If we have the medium budget approval for about $7,800, we could have an intern for 1 year, paying them $15 an hour. And if we have the high budget approval, which is shown on the right here, the breakdown, we would request about a little over $108,000. So we would pay a web page consultant for 3 years, and that's part-time. But then we would do radio advertisements, newspaper ads, and possibly TV ads to promote this eco hub, promote the new ideas, promote the branding of sustainable lifestyle changes, those daily things that we can educate the public on taking that change and implementing, a better opportunity for us to manage our materials. Can you do the next slide? Thank you. And we also came up with another connection point with RCAP. They're a training company based out of Puerto Rico. We had a meeting last week with Edwin and internally with Waste Management Authority to come up with the needs about educating our public on our solid waste situation, right? So, for example, we talked about the used oil collection point and how we really need to educate people to try to limit the illegal dumping and educate folks on the right thing to do, how to dispose of things properly. And as we do implement these waste diversion, recycling opportunities, we can do new trainings and offer more awareness for people, get in the public's accessibility, not necessarily too much that they tune us out, but make it easier and more well known about how to properly manage the waste stream. Next slide. Thank you so much. We had a really good time working with Valerie and Austin and Desiree. Sheena was fantastic, and I really was grateful to help other work groups if we were able to meet. And I know I have to get back to Desiree still. Sorry about that, Desiree. But we have a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity ahead of us. Thank you so much.